never quite know what the timbre is of the song, but I feel it anyway. Ladies and gentlemen,
it's playing, Rob. You just gotta, it's there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Better Than Broadway Season 2, Episode 17.
I feel a good podcast coming on, guys. I feel
We're
good.
having a good time here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we hope you are too. But before we get started today, we need to begin on kind of a somber note. Eldridge Coleman, better known as superstar Billy Graham, passed away this week at the age of 79. A bodybuilder, champion bodybuilder in his own right. He essentially revolutionized what we know as a pro wrestler today. He was flamboyant, he was big, he was larger than life, and he kind of led the way for these big superstars that WWF and WCW formed in the 80s and 90s. Revolutionized the promo. He was he had the Muhammad Ali style wrestling promo, which Ric Flair really and truly perfected in the early 80s. But to the Coleman family, we are sorry. We're deeply, deeply saddened by the loss, and we are so sorry for your loss. We send our condolences, the whole family at Better Than Broadway.
Rest in peace, buddy.
Rest in peace, superstar. We love you. We miss you.
Yeah,
champion of the world too, man.
Can we talk about him for? I mean, he deserves a little bit of time. I know.
Well, what's his biggest accolades
on our plate? Oh, I mean, his biggest accolades is literally being the muse for fucking Hulk Hogan. Like, how does it? And Ric Flair. Like, and Dusty, like, who can, all of the legends, he's the legend of the legends. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than that. Like, even if the guy never held a belt, which he did, like
world champion for a year.
Yeah. And then, and he didn't want to lose to Bob Backlund, but it's one of those things to where, like, if it wasn't for him, we literally would not have the things. I feel like he created the gimmick. If you want to talk about legacy, I don't really feel like there were gimmicks before Superstar Billy Graham. Superstar Billy Graham saw gimmicks and he created it. And I mean, they didn't have, like, what was it? He was around before there was fucking entrance music. They didn't have entrance music back in the day. Like, Sergeant Slaughter started the entrance music, right? That was like 2 years or 3 or 5, however, 5 years. For all you historians, I'm sorry, but like, it was afterwards, right? Like, with the little thing, like, they didn't even have entrance music. This man was coming in there and getting pops from people, acting crazy, jumping up on the second rope, doing a double bicep. He was a bodybuilder that literally worked out with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was Arnold Schwarzenegger's, like, partner in the gym. And when you see him next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're like, who's that midget next to superstar Billy Graham? The guy was massive, man. He had a massive personality. He was massive physically. He was the archetype for pro wrestling and pro wrestlers. And as I think Paul Heyman said, he was the very first sports entertainer.
Love it.
Okay. Great recap on that guy.
Even Nature Boy Buddy Rogers didn't come close to what superstar Billy Graham was, and he truly was a superstar. And who trained Billy Graham?
Oh, that's a good bit of trivia. I don't.
Stu Hart.
Oh, that's right. I did know that.
He was a graduate of the Hart family dungeon.
Yeah, so on top of being this over-the-top gimmick, the guy was legit.
He was a solid worker. He was a shoot technician, good worker. It's just, it's kind of like, when Hulk Hogan was in Japan, he had this massive move set, and I mean, he could do just about anything. And he was known for his cravats, he was known for his submissions and all this other stuff. But when he came to WWF in the 80s, Vince McMahon says, you're going to do 5 moves of doom, and then you're going to finish them with one drop,
Yeah.
But his finisher, he had an ace crusher finisher. He had a submission finisher in Japan. I mean, he was a stud.
Well, when he left, like you said, when he left WWF or whatever it was, and he went over to Japan, he learned like karate or taekwondo, and he started doing kickboxing moves and stuff like that. So he was doing more shoot stuff. Like, so he completely went away from that set,
but then came back. But that's
it was style. Yeah, it was a strong style. More
strong style has always been that way. And they hit harder, they kick harder. I mean, the mat is harder. The the tables hurt more. I mean, Japan's brutal, dude. Like,
Well, no, like even when a guy I follow on Facebook, he's like, yeah, I'm in Japan learning like Shotokan karate, which is totally different. It's kind of more like we're like, oh, we don't punch the head, we punch full force to the body. And so it's like, and they do that so you feel the pain of how hard you're getting hit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, because like people sit there and just trade. And then, oh, leg kick. And then like your leg's numb. And then there's, I'm gonna get punched in the chest and the stomach again. It's brutal.
That's why so many of them wear kick pads.
If you guys want to see a classic Hall of Fame introduction, watch Superstar Billy Graham's induction. Hulk Hogan puts him over like nobody else's. Like, to see as a child, especially if you're like around our age and Hulk Hogan was kind of your idol growing up, maybe you don't really know who Superstar Billy Graham is. If you want to know how much of an impact Superstar Billy Graham had on this, you need to look no further than watching his Hall of Fame. I can't remember the year, but Hulk Hogan introduced him, and he puts him over like nobody's business. Like, literally said, I went to a wrestling match and I saw him and I decided I wanted to be a wrestler. Literally said Billy Graham is the reason Hulk Hogan decided to start wrestling.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
I mean, and so that's a little bit of history if you want to go back into that. And Rob, I think we have a little bit more history that we're going to cover this week. You want to tell them about it?
Yes, absolutely. But before we do that, Superstar Billy Graham, 1943 to 2023. Rest in power, and thank you so much for all your contributions to the industry. Speaking of which, Chef, thank you. You got a message from friend of the show, Nick.
Yeah, Big Nick. What's up, Nick? What's up,
Nick? Thank you for your email. Chef, take it away.
So our friend Nick, messaged us on our Facebook page and was like, hey, will you review the 1989 Royal Rumble? And I was like, damn right we are. Like, that sounds awesome.
It's like the second one ever. It's like one of the best.
It's the second one ever. And it's like, I was 7 in 1989. So I'm like, well, I wasn't really even watching wrestling, so I have no idea who's on this card. I mean, it's out of the knowledge of like, okay, I remember these guys in the past, 10, 15 years won the Royal Rumbles where they had their pops. And I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, really?
What's on this card?
You didn't remember? So that's funny because like, you're the elder statesman, right? You're the old man here. You're 40.
You see all the gray.
Rob and I are just 39. So, but I actually was watching hardcore back then, and I almost didn't even need to look at the card. Like, I remember, like, you guys watched it back. Like, I've actually got it up here now. But like, I mean, those characters to me are wrestling. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It's one of the best. I remember because we didn't do the pay-per-view, right? We were too poor to do that. But I remember renting the VHS tape from Blockbuster.
Coliseum home video, baby.
Exactly.
Coliseum home video.
So, and I would rent that thing every week.
So this Royal Rumble, even though it was only the second Royal Rumble of all time, the first one in 1988, won by Hacksaw Jim Duggan, this was one of the most pivotal Royal Rumbles in history because it set up one of the biggest angles of the 20th century, which was the implosion or explosion
Mega Powers
of the Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man.
Which culminated at WrestleMania, right?
Yes, it did. So we'll get into that, but Nick wants us to review the whole show. So we'll go ahead and start with the first match of the show.
Oh my gosh. Like, when you're reading these, like the first match of the show, like think about this. Like, you've literally got the Hart Foundation, right? Like, basically Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which was probably my favorite, second, maybe first favorite, just because of the 2x4 and the ho, right? Like, and then across the street, you've got fucking Dino Bravo, which was one of the biggest, baddest heels like of that entire period. I remember when he was doing push-ups and they introduced Earthquake and the Ultimate Warrior was in the ring. I was watching it on a Saturday and and they just started beating the crap out of the Ultimate Warrior. Dino Bravo had more heat than probably anybody else in the country at the time, and a legitimate 600-pound bench presser.
Wow.
Like, what the hell? And if you guys watch Dark Side of the Ring, there's a great documentary on him because he had a horrible, horrible time afterwards. He ended up getting murdered, and the murder was never solved for smuggling cigarettes from Canada. So a little bit of trivia.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
Okay.
We do have Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Hart Foundation. That's Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil taking on Dino Bravo and the fabulous Rougeau brothers with Jimmy
brothers
in the corner.
Well, what I love about this was like during the whole thing, the crowd's chanting USA, and it's like, you guys realize
Canadian except
for
Jim.
Like literally is. I mean, maybe North America versus France, but like it's like okay,
yeah, everybody.
But then Duggan gets out there and does one ho, and everyone's like, "Let's go right now."
Yeah, it is.
So the first fall, Bret Hart is pinned by Jacques Rougeau with a kind of like a meteora off the top
butt
rope,
splash,
like a butt splash. I don't know, but then the Hart Foundation and Hacksaw take the second and third falls. Jim Duggan with a little bit of trickery with the referee's back to wax Dino Bravo with the 2-before. And Bret Hart gets the sunset flip roll up pin for the 1, 2, 3, and the U.S. Canada alliance win that match.
What I like also about that is like when Duggan gets in there, like Hacksaw spends a good 10 minutes, maybe less, of like just getting the crowd amped up, just the hose and the posing, and then when he gets in there to wrestle. He's not wrestling. The guy isn't in a bar fight. He's like throwing telephone poles, just bang, 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 bang. And then he's like, "Oh, then I'll throw you on the ground." And it's like, okay.
And the thing about Hacksaw Jim Duggan is that he was a legit tough guy. I mean, he literally. I mean, he is a tough dude. Rarely got injured. Sometimes he worked hurt. I mean, the guy was a beast. But Justin, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to add, he's actually an uncle of a friend of mine, and I've got pictures of my friend Lindsay that of him at like family reunions and stuff like that or whatever. And he's just, I mean, she said that growing up, she just remembered growing up because she wasn't even really a wrestling fan, but they were all family and they would go to gatherings, and he's always the character. And I think that's the thread that you can see that's common in all this stuff is these guys live their gimmicks. And and I'm watching these matches back and seeing this crowd and how hot this crowd is for the opening match of a Royal Rumble that's pretty much just a 6-man tag that I don't remember it having a whole lot of buildup. I mean, I'm sure they did something, but the thing is that these guys take so much time pandering to the crowd, and you hear all the the stories and talking about like, oh, you're going too fast, and the people today go too fast. And my question to you guys is, would this match work with today's crowd the way it did back then? It would work with me because they're heroes. But if you just get like the New Day and well, maybe the New Day is not good because if Big E come back, everybody would go crazy. But you know what I mean? If you just get like 2 or 6 random people to come in there, and if they just kind of pander the crowd that way, do you think the crowd would be that crazy and that hot, or they were like, we want to see some action? That's the question.
Ryan.
It depends on what they're doing. Like, if someone like walked over to the announce table and pulled out like a beer or took a beer from the audience and just chugged it, people would react. So I think, at that point back then, Duggan and the Hart Foundation were so huge that you could do the chant from the audience. But now today, like you need to, it's when it comes to even like screenwriting, you have to slow down to go faster. So yes, I think it would, because if, you give people time to breathe, then you get them ready for the next moment. But, it can't just be like, hey guys, cheer for me. You got to do something spectacular.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Rob, what do you think?
Bully Ray said it best. He's maybe it was Paul Heyman. It was one of them. Good storytelling is good storytelling. And if you can keep the crowd interested and you can keep your movement hot and everything works, hot tags, things like that, you get, as long as people are invested, you're fine. I think that matches like this will definitely, they stay. I mean, there's a reason that Nick wanted us to review this particular show.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because of the implosion of the Mega Powers. Maybe it's because he loved the Hart Foundation, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But, you know, the bottom line is people still talk about these events years and years and years down the road. I mean, WrestleMania 3. What is the one thing when I say WrestleMania 3, what do you think about? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Was that
Hogan slamming Andre the Giant?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. I was about to say that.
Yeah. What's the second thing? What's the second thing that comes to mind? Savage and the Dragon.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Savage and Steamboat. That match, and it's one of the best matches in the history of professional wrestling because the story was so good, and you know, Savage took out, you know, Ricky Steamboat and the heel turns and all this other stuff, all the twists and turns. So, I mean, you've got a lot to think about there, and that's why we love to talk about. Hell, even the ladder match between Razor and HBK at WrestleMania 10, that was 30 years ago, and here we are still talking about it to this day. So, good storytelling is good storytelling.
It is, you know, and now that you're sitting there talking about it, and I'm thinking about it and kind of breaking it down in my head, I think it's almost like these guys are able to go slow, and they're able to, I don't want to say get by, that's not the right word, but they're able to do these things with less intensity and less like video game style violence because of the work that they put in on the front end. Like, I think these guys made themselves so big stars. Like, and when you're a huge star, you can do whatever you want to. Like, you go back and you look at like Hogan and The Rock, right? Like, you know, those two guys, like, they just sat there and just read the crowd, and the crowd was going crazy because they're two of the biggest stars in the world, two of the biggest stars ever in our industry. So, like, I think, like, now to answer my own question, I feel like somebody like a Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns right now, they could do almost nothing in a match, and it would be phenomenal because of the pandering that they could do to the crowd.
100%.
Well, but if you put in a Will Ospreay, and, you know, well, I don't even want to say that because he's huge, but like, if you put in two like good workers, they're not going to be able to do the same thing to get a reaction.
Maybe not.
I think a lot of it is, it kind of comes down to, I think WrestleMania 2 years ago, when it was going to be the greatest match ever, it was Brock versus Roman. And then, you know, I think someone got hurt and they had to end it fast. And it's like, you know, dragging things out actually helps, you know, but, you know, you got to have those highs, and you got to slow things down to rev the engine again.
And it's a lot of reason that these guys had long careers is because they were able to work slow and really take time and build the crowd, because, you know, these guys now they're doing, you know, jumps over the top rope, and they're doing flips and spins and all this other stuff. But I mean, it's neither here nor there. It's different strokes for different folks, and, you know, we love it all. We love it all.
And those guys back in the day also weren't doing all those flips, but they were doing lots of drugs and recreational. I feel like the guys nowadays are a little bit cleaner, and it probably offsets that. So,
well, I think, you know, to that point is, you know, back then you have a lot of big people, not because they were athletically big, but just because they were big. And now we have pro wrestlers are like athletes. And because you're doing all this extra dangerous stuff that, like, if you don't have the muscle to protect yourself, like, you will get hurt.
Yeah, like, wrestlers used to look athletic. Now they are athletic.
Yeah. But I will tell you this thing. The common factor before the Royal Rumble actually hit was, did no one tell these guys that they couldn't be skipping leg day? Like, everyone had these giant torsos and like these chicken legs.
Hey, like, wrestling's an upper body sport, okay? Matt Hardy said it himself. Wrestling's an upper body sport. All you got to do is put on some baggy trunks with the big boots that cover up your small calves, and then knee coverings that cover up your knees, and then you can put pads on your thighs if you want to. Fine, Ryan.
Just go out there in a suit of armor.
It'd be like Crush, like that story when Crush was in the video, and I think Kevin Nash came up to him and he's like, "What are you doing?" He had 315 on the bar in the squat rack, and he's like, "You about to squat that?" He's like, "Hell no, I'm not going to squat that. That would crush me. I'm going to overhead press it." What? Like, can you imagine that as strength athletes now? It's like, you can't squat 315, but you can press it over your head for reps. Like, that's the way they think about it. But you know what? Nobody's out in the ring back squatting anybody. They're out in the ring doing the press, the strength thing. So, I mean, it makes.
Match number 2 of the night is Rockin' Robin, the women's champion, versus Judy Martin. Something that was important in this match was that Sherry Martel, sensational Sherry, gets in the ring before the match, cuts a promo, and says, no matter who wins this match, I got next, and I'm going to see you at WrestleMania. Or da 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 da. So you end up having this match. Rockin' Robin beats Judy in about 6 minutes. The importance of this match is Rockin' Robin defended the championship one more time, and then it went vacant until 1993, until Alundra Blaze showed up in WWF and won the women's championship. 4 years later, she'd throw it in the trash, but that's beside the point. So yeah, short little
which
match.
we have a podcast on if you guys would like to go back and listen to that one. We did it with the person that made her biography. It was a fantastic podcast. It's episode, I don't know, Ryan, you're
it was 2 episodes ago, I think.
So 2 episodes
15.
ago, yeah. So 15, there you go.
Yeah. So not a lot here.
Well, I think, in this match we can point the finger at the root cause of global warming with how much hairspray they used. Like that's what started El Nino, is the amount of hairspray that was used in that building for those girls' hair, and probably all the other pro wrestlers' hairs too.
Sherry Martel, rest in peace. We miss you.
Man, sensational Sherry. She was
best.
one of the originals, right? I mean, she was one of the best, the first and the best female heels ballets, I think, in my opinion. Like when I think of like bad girls back in the day, and I don't mean bad girls like Uday Bad, I mean like,
She was, yeah.
I think of sensational Sherry and I think of Luna.
Yeah. Sherry was one of the most legitimate heels in wrestling ever. I mean,
she had heat, man.
She just exuded. She just seethed, this charisma, but it was like this heel charisma. It was really good. It was just something you just can't. Is because je ne sais quoi is the French say, but you can't put your finger on what it was. But damn, she was good. The
man.
Sparkle, the glitter on the face, and the makeup, and just.
Which was ahead of its time because nobody was really doing that. And like now girls do that all the time just when they go out to like Applebee's and shit. But like I can't. Okay, so we need to talk about, if we're going to talk about that match, we have to talk about these little segments that they put in for the Royal Rumble in between, where the guys are picking their balls like they're in a little hopper. Like it's
they're doing what there, Justin?
They're doing bingo. They're picking their balls, Ryan. They're picking their balls, Ryan, because it's about to be a 30-man gangbang inside the ring. Rob, I'm sorry.
His words, not mine.
But they're technically your words. I just used them for you. Sorry. Well, we're talking about wrestling. We're just talking about wrestling, Rob. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Rob, it's just a bunch of guys ganging up on somebody else.
Listen, you.
No, but aren't those segments good? Like, I wish they would bring that back. Watching this, I'm like, it's comedy, it's light. They're like, oh, let me go, like, ha, yeah, but you still don't know when they're coming out. But they get excited or they get happy, and you see all these guys and Jake.
Who's excited drawing like number 4? Like,
I know, but like you see all these guys like Jake the Snake's got his big python around him. They're all in gimmick and they're just grabbing a ball out of a hopper. Like it's so ridiculous. It encompasses 1989 wrestling.
So the best one, obviously, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, in his green vest with the dollars on it, with Virgil standing next to him. He pulls out the ball and it's like, oh no. He's like, hey, Slick, come here. Slick, come here. He said, you happy? Your guys drew earlier. You happy? And he's like, yeah, we're really happy. He says, well, let's talk some business. So he takes him off the side, and we'll get to Ted DiBiase in a minute, because Ted DiBiase was the ultimate schemer. But before that, we have one more match.
Still is too, by the way.
Oh yeah, but no, that's
that's his son.
What's it? Yeah.
Did you guys hear that?
The Apple gimmick doesn't fall terribly far from the tree, but we will come back to that in a minute, because I want to get into this last match before we go to the Rumble. We have the Battle of the Kings. It is the singles match for the King of the Ring, the Crown and the Cape. It was King Haku, joined by Bobby the Brain Heenan, and King Harley Race, who was also managed by Bobby Heenan as a member of the Heenan family. Haku is Ming, and Ming in WCW, and Haku is part of that Tongan Anawai Polynesian family. He's one of the cousins or one of the uncles. I'm not really entirely sure, but bottom line is Haku wins this match with a thrust kick to the throat, and he pins Harley Race. This was one of Harley Race's last matches in WWF before he left to manage Vader in Japan and in WCW. I'm going to take it to Chef. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Haku Ming being King Haku and the King.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, I was like, yeah, I remember this guy, like seeing him in WCW as Ming and things like that. You know, when I saw Harley Race, I was like, who is this guy? This guy is the caffeine-free diet Kroger brand, you know, Coca-Cola over here of Sid Vicious. And
Don't you let him know that.
Man, Harley Race was the NWA champion of the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my piece
Man,
about those
legend.
two people. Ryan, I'm gonna let you finish, but I've got some, yeah.
Ryan, go.
No, I thought it was, you know, it was a good match, man. Like they were there, you know, test his strengths, you know, and Harley is doing well, and King Haku is just like he's a tank, and it's kind of the common theme of like the unstoppable force versus the unmovable object, and Harley Race just wasn't unstoppable enough, and Haku was just too unmovable. So
and to be fair, Harley Race was damn near 50 in that match. Like, God bless him.
So two things, right? First of all, we were talking about superstar Billy Graham, rest in peace, earlier. We haven't talked about Jesse Ventura, which was at this one, right? And they've got his things. Jesse Ventura blatantly stole Billy Graham's gimmick. Like
100%.
blatantly. I mean, it's worse than like John Cena and Max Caster. Like, it's like, I mean, and it's been stated that like he knew that he literally just took his gimmick and then he didn't quite get to where, like, you know, Hulk Hogan was with it or whatever. But, you know, yeah, superstar Billy Graham was, you know, Jesse Ventura before Jesse Ventura was Jesse Ventura. So that, but then secondly, what most people don't know, or at least maybe didn't know back then, but a lot of marks or smarks know now, is that this match should have been one of the greatest or most hyped up matches of all time, because it was legitimately the two biggest legitimate badasses that the sport has ever seen. And
Right.
Any wrestler that you ask, they say the two toughest motherfuckers, pardon my French, in wrestling is Ming or Haku and Harley Race. They will always be the first two words that you hear out of any wrestler's mouth when you say, who do you not want to mess with, or who do you want to have your back in a bar fight, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chris Jericho's got some great stories about him getting arrested in Mexico, and Haku literally was ripping 7 or 8 people off of him at one time. I mean, Harley Race had hands that were basically like granite, apparently, that could just rip through the bark of trees. Like, the hyperbole that probably wasn't even hyperbole, but with these guys holds no bound. And so these two guys fighting, even though it may not have been like a knockdown drag out, if you wanted to see an actual street fight between two of the hardest, meanest, toughest, legitimate son of a bitches in 1989, maybe not so much Harley Race because he's a little bit past his prime, but still, it would be this match. And for me, that makes this match really special, because
I agree.
It's kind of like a Smarks dream match.
And I'm glad you pointed on that too, because I was thinking in the back of my head, I was just like, you know, we've been watching wrestling a long damn time, and I've been watching these guys forever. And you hear all these crazy stories about things that Harley did in the 70s and 80s, and you hear about crazy things that Haku did in the 80s and early 90s. And it's like, my God, these guys are beasts. Like, you know, I'm in this group on social media. It's just like wrestling through the years is what they call it. And they've been doing these matchups lately. And one of them was like Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader, and Bronson Reed, and who would win that match. And I'm like, Vader would have crushed those guys because he was a legitimate badass. Any guy whose eye pops out of the socket, hanging from the optic nerve out of his face, and he shoves it back in and finishes the match, is a badass. I don't care who you are.
Wow.
That's crazy. He got punched in the head so hard that his eyeball popped out of the orbit, and then he just shoves it back in and finishes the match.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do, man.
You know who's not going to do that? Me. I dislocated my shoulder in a weightlifting meet, and it took 20 minutes for them to pop it back in. Did I go back out and compete? No.
Dude, I stumped my toe. I take off work for a week. So, you know, like sometimes I sneeze and it pulls my back out of spot.
You get a cold and you think you're dying.
Yeah. I'm a baby when I get sick, man. So thank God I don't
this
ever
would
get
have
sick.
been our spot for the Instagram promo. This would have been our social media spot right here,
Yeah, there you go.
talking about us being punks.
Yeah, I got it marked.
All right, it's great. Okay, so let's do this thing. Nick, this is for you, pal. We're talking about the Royal Rumble. And something interesting was that it started out with Demolition, Axe and Smash, and they had their theme music. They came out to their theme music, which they had great theme music. But no one else came out to theme music except for Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man, and maybe Ted DiBiase. Everybody else just come out to the ring and when the bell rings, and that's it. Like no theme music, no fanfare. They just all kind of slowly come out to the ring. And you start with Axe and Smash, and then you get, I can't remember who came out third. Andre the Giant comes out third.
And I got them all written down right here. Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. So
speaking of perfect, Mr. Perfect was after that.
Mr. Perfect was number 4. That's right. I can't remember after that because they just kind of all run together. But
so I've got the lineup here. So you've got Axe, Smash, Andre the Giant, Mr. Perfect, then we got Ronnie Garvin, who was eliminated, I think, almost immediately by Andre the Giant. And then you had Greg Diamond Valentine, which is another one of my favorites growing up. And then later on,
Jake the Snake came out.
Was after that, yeah. Jake the Snake was 7. So, which is weird because when he did the hopper, he looked like he was excited about number 7. But like you were saying to your point, like who's going to get excited about being number 4? But
right.
But yeah, then he had some guys.
I didn't know how much heat Andre had with Jake at the time, and apparently, like when
it was legitimate.
Yeah, like in the match, like Andre's like trying to take his head off, and like the camera would zoom in there, and Andre's like making all these awesome faces of just like caveman, like trying to pull a head off of a body.
Andre had some of the best faces, and I don't know if it's just a natural thing or if he like worked on that, but like he had some of the best face. Like,
anybody want a peanut?
I'm the Dread Pirate Roberts.
We're on the Brute Squad. You are the Brute Squad.
You are the Brute Squad.
But no, and then a couple people later, like a familiar face, like Shawn Michaels came out. I'm like, oh my God, Shawn Michaels! Look at him. He's all 21 and like giant mullet.
That was pre fucking over Marty Jannetty too.
Yeah.
That was before Sherry was his manager too. So anyway, as it stands, Randy Savage comes out at 15, and then later on Hulk Hogan comes out at 18. The biggest thing in this match is that accidentally Hogan eliminates Savage somewhere.
Who was the world champion at the time?
Yeah, Savage, who was the world champion at the time. He was the champion for over a year, which is awesome. But this was one of the things that caused the implosion of the Mega Powers, because the very next week on, I think it was either Saturday night's main event or one of these other shows, that was the one where Savage bumped Elizabeth off the ring apron and she fell to the floor. And the main event on the main event too, February 3rd, they're battling the Big Boss Man and Akeem with Slick, and she falls off the apron, and Hogan goes and gets her, carries her to the back. He comes back out. Savage gets pissed. He slaps him, and then he leaves. And then when they're in the back trying to discuss what's going on because Elizabeth's injured, that's when Savage attacks Hogan, and that's what leads us up to WrestleMania 5. But that's kind of later. What's now is eventually towards the end of the match, number 30 entrant who Slick sold his number to was the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, thinking he's going to win this match. With a little bit of trickery, he eliminates several people. He comes down to him it's him and Big John Studd at the end, who had just returned to WWE after a short stint away. Big John Studd ends up being the winner of the Royal Rumble, and then for fun, he just beats the shit out of Virgil at the end. Because why not? Why not? Poor Virgil. Oh man, he's still trying to sell autographs and shit in Times
He's
Square
not doing
for
too
20
good.
bucks.
Yeah.
Poor
Can we
guy.
stop for a second and talk about the Bushwhackers? Because they were my favorite tag team in the world back in the day. And that walk that they did, I used to just do that just all around. Just boom, boom, boom. And that walk to the ring. And just like, I don't know, we could sit here and talk about like all the gimmicks in this match, like that you just don't really think about. Like I didn't know the word gimmick existed in 1989, but like just Jake the Snake throwing a snake into the ring. And and just the way
And Andre was like, "Piece the fuck out."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Andre was like,
Andre
"Screw
was
this,
terrified of snakes.
I'm out of here." He was legit shoot terrified. And going back on what you were talking about, Rob, with the whole Elizabeth thing, and with the mega powers, was that Randy was legitimate pissed and thought that Hogan was screwing his girl.
Yes.
Like that's real heat. That was a real thing. Or if it's not, they've literally kept it kayfabe for 30 plus years. Right?
I mean, maybe.
Like,
they told me that he would lock Elizabeth in the locker room, in her own locker.
There's been all kinds of stories.
In.
I heard it directly from Jake the Snake's mouth when, like, in person, when remember when I was working with him, whatever. He would tell me stories about how, like, no, like that was a shoot, like no cameras on. So I mean, maybe Jake was working me, but like, I mean, he's like, no, that shit was a shoot. Randy was crazy and he was paranoid and he thought that everybody was screwing his girl. And like, and when they brought it, I don't know if that's the reason they brought it into the storyline, because McMahon likes doing that, or if that was just something that came about from the storyline. But at whatever point the angle was, it's some real life drama that was captured on screen.
Well, Bischoff said it best: controversy creates cash, and nobody knew that better than Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And I think a lot of that's why you had Edge and Matt Hardy and Lita as a storyline for a year, and you had Triple H and Stephanie, and you had China and all these other. I mean,
Sean and Sonny,
like things work, and unfortunately, to the detriment of a lot of people's personal lives. I mean,
Mark Henry and the Great Mulo.
Butts and seats, man. Butts and seats.
Butts and seats.
If you can do something that's going to put more butts and seats, that's what we got to do.
Butts and seats. Well, Nick, thank you, friend. We hope you've enjoyed this review of the Royal Rumble from 1989. Congratulations to the.
Well, hold on, we didn't talk about Big John Studd. We got to talk about that.
Well, I mean, he won the Rumble. I guess he gets his time.
He won the sumbitch, right? Like he was another guy that was just like this massive person. But it's kind of interesting now to watch back. Like you have all these legends in this match. Like you literally like just go down the list between like Arn Anderson, Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, Andre
Tully Blanchard came out,
like Tully Blanchard, like all these guys, and then Big John Studd wins.
Yeah,
like can you imagine being 1989? You have all these superstars here. You've got freaking Warlord or whatever his name was. The big Jack. He was like the biggest dude of them all back in the day. He was part of the Powers of Pain or whatever. I mean, and Big John Studd win. I could imagine that as a kid watching that. I'm like, what? How did he win? Because he was a big guy, but he wasn't a huge gimmick guy. He wasn't crazy over. So you got to think that Vince McMahon saw something in this guy to push him at some point in 1989. So I don't know.
Well, I think also like, they kind of got the Rumble going with all these, in small promos of like the guys like, I'm going in here. I can't trust anybody. I got no friends, blah, blah, blah. And like a lot of them, including Studd, was like pretty stale. And then like you get a Savage and a Hogan cutting their promos. I'm like, yeah, like this is why these guys are superstars. And then, then Studd comes out and wins and you're like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it was cool.
I think too, based on who we are as fans of the industry, I think we have a bias to some degree, because as long as most of us have been fans of wrestling, we have the understanding that the Royal Rumble is a big deal because the winner of the Rumble gets a shot at the title at Wrestlemania. That has become the prize. Back then, there was really no prize. It was just, okay, you win the Rumble. and it was, and while it was always been one of the big four, it wasn't this top tier
career changing moment,
premium live event or whatever the hell. Like it's not a career changer like it is now.
It wasn't, but I think it is important for us to sit here and talk about, Big John Studd. He was a huge deal back then, no pun intended or whatever, but this was really his crowning achievement, right? Like this was the biggest thing he ever did. And it's really sad to think about that, like just a short 4 years later, he would be dead, right? This was pretty much his last, other than being like a special guest referee at WrestleMania. This was like, I believe, his last match in WrestleMania or in WWE. He retired in from WWE in 89, or he was fired or whatever, and he went on to the independent circuit. So I don't know why that was. I didn't, I never looked into that. That might be something interesting to look into and give it a goog. But this was one of his last matches. So the fact that he went over, they obviously saw something in him, and then it ended up not panning out because, just short afterwards, he was no longer with the company and he was out doing little promo indie shows and VFWs.
Yeah. Well, guys, we got about, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes left before we need to wrap it up. Do we want to go ahead and get in some quick news, or do we?
Yes, let's do the news. Let's do the news. Thank you, Nick, for that. That was awesome. That was an awesome time capsule and throwback. Guys, if anybody out there listening to us, all of our teams of fans out there, if you have anything that you want us to review or talk about or whatever, please send us messages. And we love making you guys happy. We're pleasers. We're here to serve the people. We are the People's Podcast. So please send us messages and we love it. Thank you again, Nick. You are the man. And that was great.
Ryan's got something else to add. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, that I was a stretching. But no,
sure?
you can email us at betterthanbroadwaypodcast@gmail.com. Exactly how it sounds.
There you go.
And on Facebook, Instagram, guys, we check it. So tell us what you want. And then, we'll do it. Literally, you can say
within reason.
Crash a car, and we're like, all right, well, I've got these two Hot Wheels. There you go, and move on.
All right. Well, the big news coming out of the industry this week is Warner Brothers Discovery have released their slate for the summer and fall, and June 17th, Saturday night, 8:00, we have AEW Collision, which is now AEW's third series on the Turner family of networks, or the Warner Brothers Discovery family of networks. We have Dynamite on Wednesdays, we have Rampage on Fridays, and now we have Collision. And by the way, did anyone notice the AEW Collision logo looking a lot like the old Nitro logo? Like,
it absolutely did. But I'm not going to let that segue. I'm not going to let that segue go, because Ryan literally went from the car crash, like we'll do 2 car crashes, and then you started talking about Collision, and that needs to be recognized because that might be the greatest segue in all of Better Than Broadway.
You're welcome.
Chef.
And it wasn't even intended. So
I'm gonna pat myself on the back on that.
I'm gonna pat you on. I'm gonna Barry Horowitz myself for you.
Wait, so does that mean is Rampage going away, or they're just going to go? We got Wednesday, Friday, Saturday,
but we have 2 live shows now.
Elevation are now off the air. YouTube is no longer a thing. Now I don't know. They're going to take this thing on the road. Obviously, the first episode of Collision is rumored to be hailing from the United Center in Chicago, and we all know what. And we all know what that means.
But have you guys watched the recent activity here within the last couple days? They have taken the United Center off of the roster completely, and Warner Brothers has made an announcement that CM Punk is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or AEW in any way, shape, or form. They had talked about it before. There was even a leaked email that came out that had his name on it, and they had the Chicago Center as listed as one of the main things that they were going to go to. I believe the first one, like you said, Rob, but that is no longer out there. Now, if this is a means to build some hype, and or if this is some type of more litigation issues that CM Punk is having because they're not wanting to bring back Ace Steel, and he wanted Ace Steel to be brought back, but there is some stuff going on, be it shoot or work, that is making this kind of pull back. I don't know if it's good, bad, whatever. I mean, you guys, what do you guys think about that?
See, I'd heard they had already hired Ace Steel back months ago.
And apparently, yes, you're right. A couple weeks ago, that was the case. But as of, I believe, Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, it is now up in the air, and it's supposedly not a thing unless something has happened within the last 12 hours that I don't know about.
I'll be damned. I'll be damned. Huh.
So yeah, so United Center no longer on the roster. CM Punk nowhere to be found. They replaced all that stuff with MJF. I feel like we're still going to see CM Punk. They've gone this far and done this much and jumped through these many hoops to get this stuff going. And as far as I know, the Collision deal itself, the television deal, much so hindered upon CM Punk being a part of it. So I think it's going to happen. I just think he's just such a son of a bitch to work with. And part of me really, really hopes and prays that this is just him being the absolute best real life heel that a heel can be in 2023 to get real heat, because you can't do that anymore. Because if not, man, he's kind of a piece of shit person.
How do you really feel about it, Justin?
I feel like I need some more pancakes. That's what I feel like. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. You're hearing all these things, and journalism is journalism, and rumors are rumors. I mean, and the only journalism we've got is that Saturday, June 17th, 8:00 Collision. This is this. Rumors are the show's going to be based around Miro and Thunder Rosa and House of Black and all these different characters, and it's going to be somewhat of a brand split.
Soft brand split,
yeah, who knows? I think it's a great opportunity for AEW to continue to grow their fan base, but Jesus Christ, we've got 5 hours of AEW on TV now.
4 hours live.
4 hours of live, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of WWE.
Raw.
And then you got Impact, 2 hours of Impact. You got NXT. MLW has a Friday night show. So I mean, like, for somebody, for us and for all the other wrestling podcasts and radio,
it's a 40-hour work week just to keep up.
40-hour work week. We're gonna need you guys to actually start paying us, so then we can spend all this time watching wrestling to talk about it.
Fantastic.
So please, if any of you have friends who have companies that would love to sponsor Better Than Broadway and BTB Media, we would really, really appreciate it, so that we can do some stuff like go to wrestling shows and have bigger, better guests on, so that we can, obviously serve you guys and give you all the content that you want.
I'd like a butcher shop to sponsor us. Just imagine all the free steaks. I'd be happy with that. I'm a hungry boy. Yeah.
Bacon is the candy bar of meats. I don't know if you know that.
Wait, wouldn't that be Ryan? This is your subject here. Wouldn't that be more of a pork belly?
I mean, well, hang on. Pork belly is often diced into little bits, so those could be like the Reese's peanut butter cups of candy.
Okay, yeah, that's
but
true.
A strip of bacon, I mean, you can candy that with sugar, so kind of is a candy bar.
That's true.
See, never doubt me again.
No, that's why I deferred to our resident expert. It's important. This is called journalism, Robert.
Never doubt.
Yes, Robert.
Oh man. All right, so where are we at here? Sorry, we had a collision, and then everything just went haywire. So now that we've covered the collision, what is next on the roster, Big Rob?
So we've got a slate of pay-per-views this weekend. We have Night of Champions on Saturday, and then we have AEW's Double or Nothing on Sunday. I don't know if Impact has anything on Friday. Maybe they have Under Siege. I'll have to double check that. While you guys talk about Night of Champions and Double or Nothing, I will check on that.
So I'm excited for Night of Champions.
Yeah, man, it looks like it's going to be a big. Has Ryan? Will you agree that ever since Triple H is quote unquote taken over? I know that's like a conspiracy theory that he's not blah 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 this and that. I feel like if nothing else, they have done a better job of making each premium live event feel like a big premium live event. We haven't had one that they haven't done something to. Even Backlash, which is typically a throwaway show, just the fact that they had it in Puerto Rico made it feel like a big thing.
Backlash was amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It absolutely was. But let's be honest, it was the crowd that made it amazing.
100%.
If they would have had that in Atlanta, it would not have been nearly as hot of a show.
God, no.
So that's what I'm saying, though. They've just done something with each one of these matches to make it, or with each one of these premium live events to make it feel big. And they didn't do that before. And like, again, I don't know who is to blame for that. Blame's the wrong word. I don't know who is to congratulate for that or to honor, but it's just something that I've noticed a lot, you know, as someone who, you know.
No, they've definitely stepped up. My only problem with Night of Champions is the main event of Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. There's no championship there. Why is it happening? Everybody else, there's championship stakes out on the line. And I get they have to put Cody versus Brock, but not that night. That is
the two biggest names. I mean, it should be for a belt, though, right? I mean, they should have done it up to where one of them was going to win a belt. But I mean, we just don't really know what's going to happen. I mean,
they're going to take Cody's weight belt.
But then again, you know what? Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But I mean, you know, here we are sitting here talking about what should happen, what could happen, what we want to happen as fans. But in the 1989 Royal Rumble, Big John Studd wasn't. That didn't make any fucking sense at all. So it's kind of always been that way with pro wrestling. So that, you know, we can always expect to see and hear the unexpected.
Yeah. Well, you know, like you said earlier, it was kind of like John's swan song in WWE. So maybe it was a thank you from Vince for all the years of service. I don't know. Who knows? But I was right. Impact Wrestling on Friday night will have their Under Siege pay-per-view. So this is going to be a huge weekend for wrestling, Memorial Day weekend, because you got Under Siege on Friday. You got Night of Champions on Saturday. You got Double or Nothing on Sunday. I'm going to be working in Florida for the whole weekend, so I'm going to miss all this shit, which I'm really...
But I wonder if Impact's pay-per-view is why certain someone delayed us.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Are we allowed to talk about that? Yeah, we're not going to talk about that yet. We do have some great, awesome, big stuff in the works, guys. We're really excited about it. But we're not at liberty to speak of it at this time. But we do have some cool guests, some cool people coming on, and some cool topics to review and stuff in the future. But yes, going back to Night of Champions, Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. I do think that it's going to be a good match. Who do you guys think is going to win, Rob?
Cody has to win. Unless they're planning on doing a rubber match with him and Brock, I feel like Cody has to win this one.
If they did that, would it be at SummerSlam?
Or it would be next month at Money in the Bank, leading into SummerSlam. Because, you know...
Heads up, guys, real quick. My battery is super low on my computer, and it's going to die, and I don't know where my charger's at. So if you lose me,
we'll wrap.
Justin dies.
I'm up. Yeah, time. I'll never talk to you again.
I think again, Cody's got to win this one, but at the same time, I feel like Brock needs to win this one because, you know, he hasn't had a marquee win in a while. He had a DQ with Lashley. He hasn't beat Roman. For some reason he can't, you know, defeat the tribal chief. Cody is the biggest babyface in the company right now, and to kill his momentum by having him lose to Brock would be tough.
What if Brock wins
man?
Really nastily, you know, like, and
if he brutalizes him, great. Maybe it's a DQ. Maybe Brock just beats his ass and bloodies him and just leaves him in a pool of his own blood and then just walks away with
Cody likes
something
to bleed,
happened but something to happen to get Brock to get the upper hand, though, that could still make Cody look strong and then set up the rubber match. I think that's realistically the most thing, you know, the thing's going to happen. I mean, in a big series like this with two big people, you very, very rarely just see two matches and then it's over. You see 3, 4, whatever, right? Like Seth Rollins, they did that with him. You're going to see at least 2 or 3 matches between Cody and Roman Reigns at some point, and they're just taking longer and they're going on, you know, side quest, let's say, right now. So Brock Lesnar is a big ass side quest.
Big one. A lot of experience on that one.
Real quick on the other stuff that's going on the card, though, because, you know, it's the Night of the Champions. We got
we got, you know, Mustafa Ali versus Gunter.
Can't wait for that. Gunter's going to kill him, but it's either way, it's going to be great because Mustafa Ali is finally getting a title opportunity, which I think he richly deserves. I think he's a fantastic talent, and I really love watching him work. He's very unique. He's you know, some people have called him Ricochet Light, but you know, I think he's great. And this gimmick that he's got right now, where he's positively Positive Ali. It's really great.
I'm positive that I'm jealous of his hair. That's about it.
Yeah, there you go. The big match, obviously, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Sammy and Kevin for the tag titles.
That's the one that's confusing to me, guys.
That's
confusing to me.
How? Just first off, how and why?
Because he's the tribal chief.
It's
we call the shots.
Are we going Roman 4 belts? Like, are we really going Roman 4 belts?
Oh, I don't know. I just think it's a good opportunity. What bothers me is that this is going to be in Saudi Arabia, right?
Well,
right?
This is important. We didn't talk about this. The reason that Sammy is going to be in Saudi Arabia for this is because diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Syria have improved.
Yes.
And this has given Sammy the green light to come. Now, the question is Paul Heyman going to be in Saudi Arabia based on his heritage? He was there last time, wasn't he? He was there for Crown Jewel, yeah?
He was there for Crown Jewel, I believe. Oh, man, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. I'm trying to remember. We'd have to look that up. The people, you guys in the comments, let us know if you can remember that or not. But it is interesting, and I would like to think that Sammy would be like, I'm only going to go if you let me win, if you put me over, for this one, because that would be a big win for Sammy and his culture and religion, right? I just think that that's the right thing to do. I just don't know if Saudi Arabia is going to let it happen, since they're the ones that are booking. And man, I don't know. I almost hope that I don't want to see Roman win the belts. I really don't. I don't see how that fixes or helps anything, unless it somehow creates some rift between Jay and Roman, and then you finally get the Jay and Roman feud.
But aren't they like kind of teasing like a Roman versus Solo?
No, I think that it's more the Jay versus Roman right now. I mean, there's been cracks and dissension across everybody and everything. I mean, Solo has been at Jay's throat for months and everything else. So I mean, I
think Solo's going to snap and take it to Roman.
I don't think Solo's ready, right? Just like Cody said, Solo's not ready. Solo's not ready. They've been pushing the shit out of him. They're protecting him very well. They're making him seem really strong and hiding all of his weaknesses, but he's not ready for that title. It's going to be a long time before he's ready for that. Jay is ready for it. Sammy's ready for it. Kevin's ready for it. Cody's ready for it. Everybody else is ready for it. Fuck, Jimmy's probably ready for it, but Solo's not ready.
We do have 2 women's matches on the docket. We have Bianca Belair and Asuka for the what would be the Raw women's title, which they haven't switched titles yet. And does Rhea Ripley have a match on this thing yet?
I don't think so.
It's not listed unless they're going to do something.
Some angle next week just to put it together. She had her moment at Backlash with Thea, not Thea. Damn it, sorry. Zelina. Calling her by her real name. Sorry. Thea Trinidad, you're the best. You're awesome. Love to have you on the show. And but no, and then you've got Becky Lynch and Trish. That's going to be a great match.
That will be a good grudge match. I think that'll be good. I think it's always fun to see these female shows or these female matches highlighted over in Saudi Arabia. It's always going to be interesting to see their attire, because we know that this is like a non-canon as far. It's very, very modest. See what they can do it's modest, but it's still very risque.
Push the boundaries
there. Yeah, so for sure. But the big match that we haven't talked about yet is Seth frickin' Rollins and AJ Styles for the new and first world heavyweight champion. What do you guys think of that one? Because that's going to could definitely be the match of the night as far as just technical goes, right?
I think, it could easily be AJ Styles is so underrated for what he can do in the ring. And, I think Seth Rollins is like fuel to a fire. The more AJ elevates, the more Seth Rollins is going to escalate. So I think, this could be a match of the evening. I think it's going to be a lot of flying around. It's going to be a lot of, banging on each other. I'm not going to say it. Don't worry, Rob. Calm down. But no, and it's going to be some beautiful, beautiful hair. You know,
That's a beautiful.
it's gonna be a L'Oreal shampoo commercial of just men with hair.
Vidal Sassoon, man.
Yes, it's gonna be everywhere.
Oh my God.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, I think that really could be the match of the night.
Interesting fact when it comes. Are we there? Interesting fact. I'm good. Interesting fact is that in inaugural championship matches, currently Seth Rollins is 1-1. He won the NXT title, lost the Universal, and now he's got a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. So interesting little factoid there. Seth Rollins is the inaugural champion.
I like it. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else?
Did Rob die?
Nah, we're good. We'll discuss. We'll do the fallout of Under Siege. We'll do the fallout of Night of Champions, and we'll do the fallout of Double or Nothing next week on Better Than Broadway. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on social media at Better Than Broadway on the Instagram. Send us your questions, your comments. We've got Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. We're all over the world. Come find us somewhere. We're gonna have a good time. We got a YouTube channel now. It's gonna be great.
Showing up at random Applebee's across the nation. Just come talk to us. Buy us a drink.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let us know what you guys want.
Yeah. Awesome. For the chef and Metzi, I'm Coach Rob. Happy wrestling, everybody. See y'all soon.
See you guys later.